user, it is the same like valid. He has to enter the valid data, and the other one is no data and invalid data. And after like in the valid data, if he enters a valid data, then he has to link to the dealer. And when it is not linked to the dealer is another criteria I have to check.
Okay. So couple of questions around your design, and so that I can a little bit more insight on what were you thinking.
Okay.
So if I look at the dealer user, right? So you identify it as a two-tier decision that you're going to do it, right? So the first thing you're going to identify if they'll select a valid dealer or not, right?
Yes.
But have you thought that while I'm creating a dealer user, right? There could be one of the two scenarios, right? There could be a user created and one of the required field is what dealership they are associated with it, right? So can you collapse those two tiers that you have identified into a single tier to simplify things?
Maybe I think I'll have to take off the selecting the dealer tier.
Yeah, so whenever you're creating a tree, right? The things that you have to think about it is, are you creating an additional tier which may not add a significant value? In this case, right? If the dealer information is just one of the additional attributes, just like name, email, right? Because if when I kind of see it at the bottom, you have a dealer information there too, right? Name, email, phone, dealer, area manager associated with that, right? The other thing I would look into is look into the data structure and understand what are the fields required for the dealer user. Is a regional manager needed for the dealer user? Is the area manager needed for the dealer user? Or is that relationship, is that the RFREP and the area managers are assigned to dealership and not to the dealer user? Right?
Yeah.
So that's something to think about it. Also, based on the attributes or the 4 branches that you have it under valid dealer, right? I can definitely understand no data. I can understand the valid data. And I kind of read it, invalid data is essentially you're providing only optional field and not all the mandatory field, right? So I would not call it invalid data. I would call it as missing data.
Yeah, missing data.
Because invalid means I have provided a value, but it's not a valid value, right? Which is a little bit different than the missing data.
So like, what if I want to check invalid data, say like, maybe then it would branch, I would not have branched the email and phone number, but if I don't branch that one, then the invalid data might come into picture, right? The email and phone number if it is already registered with another user.
Yes, but and that's why I wanted to understand a little bit more on invalid data, right? But your description says it's essentially missing data, not invalid data, right? Now, one of the things you identify is the email and phone number. Are you sure that email and phone number are the unique information required by every user? Potentially, I could have the same phone number for the dealership for every dealer user worked there.
I guess, is there a rule that says that dealer cannot have a duplicate phone numbers? Is there anything you see in the requirement? If it's not, then you shouldn't be separating out.
Right.
So does that email and phone number, it's not the personal phone number, is what you're saying?
So it's not about the personal number or that, right? what Harshal is pointing out, the way that you've identified this almost makes me to believe it that you're saying is that every dealer user should have a unique email address and a unique phone number in the system. That may not be the case.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that you want to think about it. Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So that's the feedback on the dealership. So you may want to think about redrawing it, collapsing the two layer, and categorizing it. Again, think the way I would recommend everybody is take a look at the data required for creating a dealer user. And based on that, make a determination of what are the different conditions you need to test it.
Okay.
Right? Same thing goes with the RFREP users, right? What you're indicating that for RFREP users, the way that you linked it from a valid data, and then there is another branch for linking to the dealer and not linked to the dealer. Can I create an RFREP users without any dealership associated?
Okay. Yeah, got it.
Right? If so, does that branch that you launched it out, is it even a valid or required branch?
No, it's not required.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So at a higher level category, right? When I look at it, both of you are dealership, right? So essentially you're breaking a dealer and an RFREP users. In the three key areas that you want to think about it is, I'm providing all the required valid data. I'm not providing any data. And I'm providing some data, but those are optional data and not the mandatory. Right? So potentially I can collapse no data and missing data into one, but I'm okay if you're drawing two different data to the sense is that can I create, what happens if I don't provide any data and click a create? Right? That's one scenario versus the other. So that's the three categories that I can see it at a high level. Right? Now, obviously, I would like all of you to think about it, drill it down into the user data and look through it.
Okay.
Okay. So let me switch for a moment to Roger. Right? Roger, do you have anything different than what Rashmi has on the screen or what we talked through it?
Well, a little bit, and I've just realized that there is some I missed. Let me share mine, and then maybe we.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. Let's have Roger share it.
Okay. So this is how I broke down mine, the area manager, and then we have the dealer user, and then the Arfloan rep, and then under the dealer user, I have valid data and invalid data. And then under valid data, I have the user created because you already, I mean, you have the, the valid information to create it. And then with invalid data, since the data is invalid, I say that we're gonna get negative results. And then
what is the negative result in your mind?
What's that? Say that again.
What is the negative result in your mind? I mean,
in my mind, I mean like error, because I mean this is
okay.
Yeah, this is that wrong data, so you're gonna get an error. That's why I call it negative results.
Okay. So those are the expected results at the bottom, the last layer, right?
Yes.
So I would say it's when you're drawing the tree, you don't have to worry about the outcome, right? Think about the scenarios that you will be testing. So in this case, you will be, one scenario is going to create valid dealer users by providing the valid data.
Okay.
Another scenario is you're trying to create the dealer users by not providing all the information required to create a dealer user.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So this one is kind of similar to what Rashmi had shared it, right? Just with the exception that you've collapsed invalid data and the no data into a one.
Right.
Okay. Deepa, I see your hand raised.
I cannot share my screen because I'm at school working. So can I tell my criteria over here? Can you hear
Sure.
me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have like under dealer user, I have like kind of 4 with dealer ID, without dealer ID because that's required to create your dealer user, and with first name, without first name, or only first name and then only last name. Because if there is no last name, it's both are required to create a dealer user.
Right.
For error, the same, without the first name or without the last name. Area manager should be assigned to a rep representative with assigned without assigning area manager. Maybe the 2 category for rep, rep, whatever.
Yeah.
So 4 under thing. Those are the required thing for creating a user.
Yeah, but Deepa, it's like it's if you think about it, right? From a higher level category, it is same. It will fall if you like think of that way, right? It's essentially I'm trying to create a dealer without a valid data, and then I'm trying to create a dealer users with a valid data, right? Through 2 broader categories. Same thing with the RFREP users, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there are like first 2 categories is creating dealer user and rep user. Under that, I'm like having those invalid data. Like what are the invalid data I could able to valid and the invalid. Like I have like 2 under each section.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else has anything different? Jeshri, you had raised your hand.
Yeah, I have a little bit different. Can I share mine?
Yes,
Sure.
go ahead.
Can you able to see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have written like dealer user, Arfloan user, dealer user can create and unable to create, so valid ID or invalid ID. The created is valid or invalid.
So think about it, right? So walk me through a scenario like it's when you're trying to create a dealer user and unable to create. What will happen in that scenario? When would you do? What would you do it to test it out then? Write the test case on that one.
So we can he can't able to create the ID whenever he used or login or whatever the data.
No, walk me through high level logical steps. What do you think that you will do it in that particular scenario?
He cannot able to create, he cannot able to log in or he cannot able to create the user. There'll be no user.
No, but you walk me through it. I understand when you say there won't be any users, but what is the steps that you will write it to test out that scenario?
So the test, he can't able to create so he can't able to log in, there will be no user. So he can't able to log in inside
what data you will provide it?
So think about you are RFREP user, you are logging in. What steps you will perform as a high level to simulate, to replicate what you just said here in the scenario, basically. How would you even test it logically?
Create using the user ID. So if we go inside, so he can't able to see any of the users.
Again, understand the context. Understand the steps as you go through it, right? So whenever you define a path for a use case scenarios, you also want to think about it, what conditions you will set it up with the data in order to create that. If it's not clear to you, then you should question whether I'm defining the tree with the right sets of parameter or not. Okay. Bhumika, you had your hand raised.
Bhumika, you there? Yes. Very
Your voice is
badly.
very far. You may want to bring your mic closer to yourself so that we can hear it. It's very faint.
Yeah, if you are using headphone or something, I think maybe that's what it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I got it. Can you
Yeah.
hear me now?
Yeah, this is
Yes,
better.
yes.
Okay. So do you want me to share a screen or can I just say it?
Either one. Go ahead and share the screen.
Okay. I'll try because this is the first time I'm sharing.
It's okay. So there should be a green share screen button at the bottom of your
Okay.
Zoom. Click
Yes,
on that. It's going to pop up the options and select the whole screen,
entire
and then you
window.
should be able
Okay.
to, yeah.
Okay, share. Okay, share.
There you go. Okay. Okay. So again, I'll give the feedback. Same thing as what we talked about with Jayshree, right? Think about it. How are you going to simulate it? When you say dealer user and none, what does that condition will look like? And when you say create one or more users, what is that condition is going to look like? Do you need to create more users? So as long as you're able to create one, that proves the condition that you can create a dealer user. But what you would use it to test it, whether that can be created or not.
So let me summarize it here for, I think, if you can stop sharing, Bhumika, hopefully this one will help you. I think what we just discussed here, right? So, I mean, ideally, I mean, you can, I just do it up based on what we are talking about here. I mean, if you are really picky, I mean, you could have a no data scenario as well, or you can collapse that with the missing data, no data in one scenario. We have seen folks doing different ways. But when you are trying to create dealer user, basically Arfloan is trying to create a dealer user, you will have valid data, which is like a required information or whatever information you need to supply. So you need to think through how the Arfloan user will be creating that. Then the second scenario will be the missing information. Again, you can break down further if there are certain additional things, but that would be the typical scenario. Third would be the no data. You don't enter anything or nothing you supply. Are you able to still create a user, right? So that's something you can test it. I think those are the three key things. You can break down further depending on how your test data is and go from there. Dilip, you want to add anything here?
Yeah,
For this one?
You summarize, right? So these are the three key paths that you can take it for each user creation, right? And as I mentioned, right, depending on how exhaustive you want to do the testing, you can potentially keep it no data and a missing data separate, right? Think about it. No data is a special scenario under the missing data. Valid data is what you would need it specifically to create that, right? So here are the 6 cases that you can start with it writing the test cases. Okay. Everybody good?
Yes.
Madhvi, you had a question?
Yes. So in this case, when you say valid data, do we have to go ahead and list out the details of what are the valid data that is necessary for the account to be created?
Yes. So that's when I say it. So this is the tree, right? So when you start writing a test case, right, the Word document that we shared it, you have to provide all the data. Remember what rule I said is that do you have enough detail that if you hand over that to anybody else in the class, can they create that dealer user successfully without asking you any question?
Right.
If they can, then it's great. But what that means is you have to explicitly say what all data that you're going to use for which field, right?
Right. So in this case, then the valid data which is needed to create the users would be like the first name, last name, the dealership ID.
Yeah, so anything that is a required field under the
Okay,
user
okay.
creation for dealer user in that detailed design section.
Okay, okay, got it. Thank you.
I guess pretty much I did the same, but I detailed the invalid data, I guess. Is that right?
So I think it's you verbally described it. The gist was same, but you needed to be explicit on the scenarios.
Yeah. I just instead of invalid data, I listed
Right,
like
but
all
when
these.
you
Okay, I
ref,
agree.
right, Deepa, but when you refer only ID, think about it. ID is created only after the user is successfully created.
I said dealer ID, not like user ID.
Right, but the dealer ID is just one of the required field.
Okay.
Right, so what you were trying to describe it is what we had seen in that 2-tier. And then when you look at it, there is no 2-tier, right? It's just a one path.
Yeah, thank you.
So let's move on to second requirement. So who wants to share their tree for the second requirement? Which is the loan calculator.
I can do it.
Go
Shubhangi.
ahead.
Okay.
Hold on, Shubhangi. You had shared it. I would like somebody else who has not shared it first.
Okay.
And then we'll go with it. Go ahead, Rohini.
Yes, go ahead, Rohini.
Share screen. So I would just say share. Is that what I do?
Yes, yeah. Just click on share screen and then click on share again. I think that's all you need. Yep.
Okay.
That's coming up. Okay.
Which one? Can you see my screen?
Yeah,
Loan calculator.
I can see it. Yep. So you have
loan calculator.
Mm-hmm.
So
when is this going to come into picture? Let's talk about the context first.
So when the dealer logs in to dealer page and he can calculate, use the loan calculator option to calculate the loan.
Okay.
So there is a loan calculator functionality on dealer's page.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So the dealer clicks on calculate loan with the valid data.
Mm-hmm.
And can calculate the loan with the invalid data.
Okay.
The other option is, like I said, cannot access loan calculator. What I mean by this is I could see the loan calculator button, but it's not clickable.
So in that scenario, right, it is not part of this requirement, right? So if I just think about it, I cannot access the loan calculator. That is going to be a security requirement, right? Whether I can access or not.
Why
right?
would it be security requirement? I cannot click.
Well, so think of it, right? If I'm a dealer user, and if I'm not able to access one of the functionality that I'm supposed to it, that means something is wrong with my access, right? Which falls under the security.
The user roles, it's one
user roles, right?
Okay.
Right. So that should not be part of this requirement. That should go into wherever we have the security is what all functionality dealer user can access it.
Okay. Gotcha.
Right. Which is in the 2.3.2. Okay. So now let's go back to calculate loan with valid data and with invalid data. So give me an example of valid data versus invalid data.
So dealer puts in the loan amount.
Okay. Give an example of loan amount.
4,500 or something like that.
Okay.
And then calculate.
Okay.
So it should give monthly payments.
Okay.
So if it gives a $50 monthly payment, is it going to be correct?
So that's going to be, if it's not correct, it would be. Oh, it's going.
I guess how would you validate it?
Yeah. So like it's when I think Harshil's question is validate. I think it's you can, as you go through it, that's something that you need to think about it is, did I calculate, did it give me the right results or not, right? That's what Harshil is pointing it out to you. So you need to think about that.
So that would come under invalid data, isn't? Oh, that.
Well,
data. Yeah,
no,
you're right.
What Harshil is talking is not invalid data, right?
Mm-hmm.
What Harshil is talking it is, let's say you gave an example, $4,500.
Uh-huh.
What Harshil is talking about it is, think also about how you're going to validate that whatever the number it gave it, is that right number or not? How are you going to validate that? So if I give loan amount as $4,500 and it gives me monthly installment of $50, is that the right number? Right?
This would
Is
split
the
into
system
two,
calculating things right or wrong? That's one aspect Harshil wants you to think about it. So when you get the valid data, it doesn't end there, right? What he says that you have to think about the return results and make a determination whether it's successful calculation or not. So that's one case. What is the other case when you say it's loan with the invalid data?
So I could put in any number or negative number or something like that.
Okay.
So in that case, it should give an error message. Cannot calculate.
Can you further classify the invalid data into more trees?
I can put alphabetical characters
right.
And or space and or like don't do anything, enter anything, any amount, and
right.
Could be space or null. I mean, nothing.
So do you have to test with those specific scenarios? And if so, is invalid data it's good enough, or do you need to break it down into 3 or 4 different scenarios and test for each one of those?
I guess I need to break it into 3. No data. And then I could say invalid, like
right. So if you enter an ABCD, can it
alpha,
calculate the loan?
alpha
right?
numeric, alphabetic or
right.
Negative numbers.
Yeah. So think about it, breaking it down further, because those are the invalid data that you need to validate against it, because those are the categories of invalid data.
Okay.
Now, Mika, I see your hand raised.
I have a question quickly.
Yes, I do.
How do I test where would this negative number would go?
So hang on just for that moment, Rohini.
Okay.
Mika, you had a question?
No, I want to share mine.
Okay, so hang on for a moment.
How can I go back?
I have a question.
Control to stop share, right?
Hang on.
Yes,
So,
stop share. Yep.
So Rohini, let me answer your question. When you say it's, how would you enter a negative number? Is that your question?
Check the negative number, because the amount cannot be negative, right? What if I put in negative 4,500, something like that?
So there are 2 questions. Does the entry field where you're entering information allows you a negative number or not? If it does allow, then what should be the output that you should produce?
Yeah.
All right.
Typically,
So
it should
that's
not allow, right?
so,
It's
so
not-
again, remember what I said. You don't go with defining your own assumptions.
Okay.
You go based on what is defined in requirements, and then you try to identify all of the boundary cases, because that's where most likely you're going to identify the bugs.
Okay.
Right? So that's what you want to do that. So you can go ahead and stop sharing your screen. So wherever
Okay.
you have it, you should have an option button. Okay. Now go
I
ahead
have a
and
question.
yeah, Chris, hang on just for a minute. So Mika, why don't you share your screen while you pull it up? And while she's pulling it up, Chris, go ahead with your question.
So I had the same diagram like Rohini. So my question was the 60-month time period. So you were asking about a negative scenario. What if they can calculate the loan for less than 60 months? Let's say 30 months or 35 months. Is that not like a default in the system?
So what does your requirement say?
I
Does
had the same.
requirement say you have a flexibility in the loan period?
No, it said a predefined calculation, which is a 60-month time
Right.
period.
So
That's what I'm saying. So I was saying like a negative scenario, if they can do it 30 months, is that not a default?
again, so the question comes in, are you anticipating what all inputs user will be able to provide it to the loan calculator? Right?
Right.
So if a loan calculator provides a user the ability to enter the amount and the loan period, then it's a valid thing what you're talking about.
Right.
But if it is a predefined, does it even make a sense to prompt a user so that they can always enter 60?
Okay, no.
Right? So you want to think it from it is, what are the required input? And think of a combination of those things.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So go ahead, Mika. Share your thoughts.
From my point of view, there was not really much of requirements as per the loan calculator. So I was just like using the logical variation of like what kind of expected and unexpected results you can see like while you're trying to put the data into the calculator. So the first scenario would be like if you were having the valid calculation, because like pre-calculated amount would match the result of the calculator when you put all the data for the loan requirement, and you get the valid calculation with expected result. And then you have the calculation with no valid input because you have to enter all this data. So the zero interest rate, it's still like you can put zero, but it will not give you the valid result. And then you will have the high interest rate, like that possibly we'll have to know like the range of the different interest rates that are allowed. So something like higher than 100% possibly not going to calculate correct. And the variations was a short term, like you know what Chris asked, like if it gives like a wiggle with a period of time, we don't know it yet. So something like we have to clarify with the client.
Okay.
The third scenario, like in a bulk when there's no data that you can actually put into the calculator, so it will not work at all. Or if you will put all the data in, it will give you an unexpected result.
Okay. So let's walk through each one of them, right? So from an input point of view, is there anything you're going to do it differently for the leftmost and the rightmost case?
This and this?
Yeah. How are you going to set up a condition for the leftmost and the rightmost scenarios?
Like break down those, or it's just
No.
like.
So think of this. The aspects of creating a different scenarios is also how you're going to create those scenarios in the system, right? Both of them tells me that I'm entering a valid input, right? So if I'm entering a valid input, going against the mindset that all of my test cases should be repeatable.
So
right?
you will have probably like expected and unexpected
I
results.
always, so if I put a $1,500,
Mm-hmm.
right, I don't control it, whether the system is giving me expected or unexpected results, right? All I control it is if I give them a valid number, whatever output they give me, if it matches it, then it passes. If it doesn't match, then it fails, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there is no way you can set up a condition differently to test your leftmost and a rightmost cases in a different way. Right?
Yeah.
So those two should not be two separate cases. It should be only one.
It should be over here the same.
It should
like
be only
expected
valid
and
input,
unexpected.
right? So you can't define use cases based on an expected versus unexpected output, right? All
So
you can do
have
it is
this wrong and right.
right. Okay, so that's one thing. Second aspect, going back to what I was talking to Chris, is a rate a required information? What does your requirement says?
Dilip, let me share something here quickly, Mika. Maybe that might help you clarify what Dilip is trying to say. Okay, so I'm just going to share it quickly here for a second. Then let me give you guys the actual or screen design. Okay, so if I give you this type of screen here for the loan calculator screen design, so you have loan amount, you have calculate, and then you have the result shown for the monthly payment. Now, would this change any of your thought process on design?
So pay attention here, right? Going back to what Chris, I told you, and then Mika, that you need to think about it. Your second from the left, these sets of use cases or scenarios is that look at what is your input. It's only loan amount, right? If you're not taking any other information as your input,
right?
Then does it even come in whether you have a different interest rate or a different payment terms?
No, so you have to have a loan amount as the.
That's the only, right? So that's the only scenario that you can test it. Yes, Shubhangi.
Yeah, I would like to share my scenarios.
So hang on. So let's just talk through these things, right?
Okay.
So think about it based on the screen markup that Harshal has shared it, right? Because it was already present, this screen markup also in your requirements document as a markup. Does that change of how you think about writing the use cases or scenarios?
I have a question before you go to a different person at the end after this.
Yeah, but again, I'm going to go back. So Shubhangi, I know you said that you want to share something. Let's talk through it without even worrying about sharing it. Anything that you are asking is any different than what we talked about?
Yeah, I draw a tree which shows like it's no data, invalid data, and the correct monthly payment calculation, which is 3% of the loan balance. So we are going to check whatever amount we put, is it the 3% of the loan balance? I mean, whether we are getting the correct answer or not.
Right,
Correct
but that's so that's the how you're going to validate you passed or not, right?
Okay.
So think about it. If I put it like it's, let's say $1,000 and the 3% of it is $30, right? So if I put $1,000 and system gives me $30, then I know it passes. If system gives me $40, then I know it failed because it did not meet the expected results, right?
Yeah.
So is that two different scenarios? It's just one scenario. And whether the things passes is based on the results. right?
Hmm.
I would not do anything different, right? I would still put only 1,000. I will still hit the calculate. There's no difference between those two scenarios,
Correct.
right? The no data and the negative, we already talked about in one of those previous flow, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Rohini, while Herschel is drawing that, what's your question?
Yeah. My question is, when I talked about calculate with valid data, we thought like it's going to branch out to 2. How am I going to check if it's correct or not? That's what Herschel asked.
It's not branching out to. What Herschel asked it is, think about it as just because you enter a valid data, that doesn't mean you will always get the same results. A pass for that means it's working, and a fail for means it's not working, not because of the input, but because you have a system logic issue, right?
So if it's not work, if it failed, if amount is not correct, then I'm going to mark it fail, right? Like
right.
So
how are you going to basically compare that amount is correct or not? How are you going to know whether the amount that is shown on the screen that is correct or not?
So it's given in the specifications, so we calculate, right? Like
okay, so it's given you 60 months.
Yes, 60,
okay.
And then I'm going to check the amount divided into
Loan calc amount, loan amount, right?
Yeah, loan amount.
Okay. Now, what is the relationship between 60 months and loan amount?
It's going to be divided into 60-month payments, right?
Okay, so generally when you are looking at the financial thing, there is an interest rate that comes into play. It
would be specified in the requirements, and then if it's there, like I can check if it's correct or not, then I could say pass or fail, right? Then valid data doesn't need to.
Again, I think I'm just stressing out the 3C and T condition that Dilip is keep bringing it, right? Keeps bringing that 3C and T. Does the requirement passes that condition, first of all?
So when I put in the valid data, I'm going to mention that in the test case, like in the data section, I'll put the amount, right? And then in the expected results, like I would mention the amount as well. Would that not be enough?
$1,000, how do I know the system is calculating correctly? If I give you calculator and 2 plus 2 is giving me 5, is it correct?
It's not like, but
how do you know it's not correct?
Because it says predefined 60 months. I thought like I could divide with 60, and then if it's
so if I take 1,000 divided by 60, is that the right value, right answer?
That's what I'm assuming.
No, you can't assume. Because what is a predefined calculation means? Remember, what's the first rule I said while you're writing test case? Can you assume things?
No.
If you don't assume it, what do you need to do? You need to find out what it should be, right?
Yeah.
In order to test this requirement, you have to know the calculation. 2 plus 2 is 5, is not 5. You know that because you know the calculation based on your past experience or whatever knowledge you have. Here, you can't really tell based on the requirement, right?
Yes.
Does it have interest rate? Is there an interest rate? We don't know, right? And based on the screen design, you are not asking for input to the user for the interest rate either. So I guess nobody asked that question. So
can you explain more? I'm not getting this test case.
Dilip, you want to take a shot at it?
Yeah. So think about it. Let's talk from the requirement point of view, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what requirement says that I need the ability to calculate the loan payment, right? So that's the capability that it's asking me to validate. That can I calculate the loan payment, right? That's first part. And the additional qualification part of it is that I should be able to calculate loan payment based on a predefined calculations.
What does predefined mean?
Right. So that's what it is. If you don't know, you should definitely ask it, hey, what do you mean by predefined calculation? Right. So for a moment, right, think about it. Anytime you're trying to calculate the interest on any amount, right? There are three factors you need to know. What is the amount? What is the interest rate? And what is the period or the duration for which you are borrowing, right?
Yes.
Those are typically three factors in order for you to calculate. In this case, right?
Yes.
What the requirement says that my payment period is always going to be fixed. It's always going to be 60 months.
Yes.
Right? The second, so that leaves only two more factors, right? The amount and the interest rate.
Yeah.
Right? You are providing the amount as an input, right? Because it says I need to be able to calculate the loan payment. And then we know that like it's the only variable here is the payment, right? How much money I'm borrowing it. That means somebody has to tell me what interest rate I'm supposed to use it.
Okay.
And that is what it's determined by predefined calculation, right? So here, you need to ask back to your business analyst and says, what do you mean by predefined calculation? Can you give me a formula of what should be that predefined calculation formula so that I can validate whatever the result system is giving me, is this the right results or wrong results?
Okay.
Right? So that's where you need to think about, right? So Harshal pointed out earlier, right? Based on a predefined, it says your monthly payment should be 3% of whatever your principal amount is.
Okay.
Right? So if I have $1,000, what is 3% of $1,000?
$30.
$30, right? So if a system gives me result, which is not equal to 30, it could be anything else but 30, then I know there is a problem in the system because system is not doing the right calculation.
Yes.
Right? And if it is providing me 30, then I know system is working as expected.
Yes.
Right? So that's when we go to valid data. How do I know it is still system is working or not? Now, again, invalid data, I could have, as I said, 0,
What
negative number,
makes valid
or
data
alpha.
and valid data in this tree?
So valid data is I'm going to give you a number, which is a positive number as an input. Right? That's my valid data. Invalid data is I'm giving you a negative number, or I'm giving you alphabet, right? Which is not a number. Can you calculate 3% of an alphabet?
No.
You can, right? So it should give you a problem. And then third one is scenario is, what if I don't enter any data?
Okay.
Right? Should I be able to calculate? I should not be, right?
No.
Now, you can argue it's what if I put a 0, right? And then I would say, what is the 3% of 0? 0, right?
Yeah.
So potentially 0 is, depending on how you identify, it could be valid or it could be invalid. Invalid from the sense, from the business point of view, right? Valid from its, can I calculate 3% of 0? Yes, I can.
Yes.
Right? So that's the clarity you need to ask it is, hey, can user enter a 0 number? If so, what do you expect? Do you expect an error message that it should be a non-zero number, or do you expect a result as 0? So that's the clarity that you needed back from the business users.
Okay.
Right? But potentially you can say it's, hey, here are the 5 test cases that Herschel has pointed it out are the ones that I need to test it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. So there should be 5 test case we have to write.
Right.
Okay.
In order to test that requirement.
Mm-hmm.
0 is under invalid data, is that right?
Well, here I also need under invalid, or as Dilip said, I mean, it could be valid, could be invalid. I mean, you can test it out. Basically, again, you are writing test cases, right? So this thing really doesn't matter. As long as you have test coverage, you have individual test case for all these different conditions. That's all it matters. Whether you branch out here or you branch out here, it doesn't really matter.
So can I say just invalid data and then have 4 data points?
You still need to test individually, right?
Yeah, but
So
like
again, remember what I said. If your test case should always be unique. You can't say, hey, I'm putting 4 data points in it. What if it works for 2 data points and doesn't work for 2 data points? Then do you have a clear answer whether the test case passed or failed?
No.
No.
That's why you need to think about it. Right? You have to think about it for each one of those scenarios. When you run the test case, can you clearly say whether it passed or failed?
No.
And if the answer is, I don't know, that is clear indication that you need to break it down test cases further to clearly isolate the conditions. Rashmi, you had a question?
Yes. Should I test for decimal numbers as well? Decimal amount?
Yeah,
Say
you can
1,000.
certainly
So
add.
you can add, let's say, like $1,000.20. Right? Can you calculate 3% of it?
Yeah.
Then it's a valid.
Okay.
So within positive, you can break it down further, right? Decimal
and non-decimal.
Non-decimal or integers.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Basically, you can go and you can have easily add another test case over there.
Okay.
Okay.
So let's switch to the next tree.
I think we already did this
We
one
did
in
the
the
manage
class.
lender. Let's go to the approve and reject credit. Okay.
Yeah, let's do 2.2 and 2.3 first. I think, Dilip.
Yeah. So let's start. I'm going to start from the bottom up, right?
Yeah.
Lender cannot modify application data. Anybody wants to share their view?
Yes, go ahead, Navina.
A second, I'm sharing my screen.
Yes, go ahead.
So you need to get to that requirement.
Can you see it now?
No, it's still showing it approve and reject credit application requirement.
Okay, which one were we supposed to discuss? Lender cannot modify application data, right?
Right.
Yeah. So this is requirement 2.3. The second one, can you see it?
We can't. It's a gray screen. So what you want to do it is you want to stop screen sharing and then redo the screen share, but this time do it with the entire desktop or entire screen. If you select a specific application only, then we cannot see anything else.
Okay, just a second. Can you see it now?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
2.3.
Yeah.
Right.
So what I've written here is the lender receives an application and none received. Receives an application has two parts. Application is complete and it's incomplete. And when it's complete, the lender can approve or reject it, but incomplete cannot modify.
All right. So let me ask questions, right? And this is from a business process point of view so that you can get the context, right?
Okay.
Why is that requirement in place? So think about that. Okay. So let's say you want to take a loan.
Okay.
Okay. You go to the bank, you fill the application and say you want a $5,000 in loan amount. Do you want the bank to have an ability that they can change the loan amount from 5,000 to 50,000?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, can you come again, please?
So do you want the bank, when you apply for any sort of a loan, to change the loan amount for you?
So if I'm
Or
applying
do
for
they need a consent from you to change the loan amount?
So if I'm applying for a $5,000 loan, I would want the bank to give me a $5,000 loan and not a $50,000 loan.
Right. So you don't want a bank to change it. Okay.
Right. Right.
Let's put it the other way. If you apply for a loan, do you want the bank to change who are your co-signees are for the loan?
No.
Okay. Do you want bank to change any of your personally identified information, like address or anything in your application?
No.
Okay. So that's the significance of that requirement, right?
Yeah.
If I'm a lender, I should not be able to modify any application data, right? So that's the context, right? So let's go back to your tree. Now that you understand the context, do you feel your path should be whether I got an application or I did get the application? Because that's not the context that you're trying to like test it, right?
Yeah.
The context is, if I have an application, can I change it or not?
Yes.
It doesn't matter whether that application is complete or incomplete. If it is incomplete, think about it, how all of the information fits in. If it's incomplete, should somebody be able to submit an application?
No. Won't be able to.
Right. So does it even come into the picture here?
No, that's wrong.
Right. Now, if it's complete, do you think whether they approve or reject, it belongs in this particular requirement or it belongs in 2.2?
Yeah, it belongs in 2.2.
Right. So think of the context. If I have to test 2.3, what are the different scenarios I have to think about it? So the tree that we wrote, you have it here, right?
Yeah.
Does not fit into the context of the business requirement, nor it fits into the application flow as it's defined within the requirements document, right?
Yes.
So again, the reason I'm saying it is that when you draw the tree, think about all those concepts,
Okay.
right? And that will guide you to say, what should be conditions I should be putting on those trees, right? So let's go ahead, Harshal.
I was just going to add, right? So in order to test this 2.3, lender has to receive the application, right?
Yeah.
They have to have at least application in their hand, and all you need to verify is, can I change anything within the application? If I can change, what are those things? Can I change anything else in the application, right? So the requirement is very simple, but you just need to think it through the stepwise, basically, from that standpoint.
So once the lender receives the application, the only thing that the lender can do is whether approve or reject. Nothing
Okay.
more.
Right. So here's the thing that you need to test then, right? It's all of the other information. Is it editable or non-editable? That's all you have to check, right? If it is non-editable, then your requirement is fulfilled.
Yes.
Right? There's no other scenarios that you need to check in. Right? Right.
I think I saw a couple of folks.
So I see Dev Kumar. I don't know. I think it's using somebody else's account.
Can I stop sharing?
Yes, Navina.
So if you have your hand raised, you had any questions?
No, like I want to share my thought. Is that okay?
Yes.
Let's talk through it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have like only one category, like modify data. So yeah, under that, I'm going to test like SSN.
We cannot see your screen, Subhangi.
No, I don't have I didn't take a picture of it. It's in my notebook. I'm just seeing my notebook and talking.
Okay.
So I have only one category, like modify data, and that under I'm going to test like crucial data which they cannot change. So loan amount or SSN.
Well, so hang on to that, right? Read the requirement carefully. Does it say that I cannot change only loan amount or SSN?
No,
or does it say I cannot change anything, right? So I should focus on everything, not just parts and pieces of the data.
Okay, so I should every aspects of the loan application.
Right.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay. Subhangi, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I feel like this requirement is not complete because lender should be able to edit the status of the credit application, that is approved or reject. So he is changing that data, right?
No, so think about it, right? It's an application data versus application status. Those two are two different things.
Okay.
Right? So if you look into the requirement, which is right above that, which says that lender can change the status of application only to approve or reject. They cannot do anything else.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what you have to see. It's the context and the correctness.
Okay.
So yes, Jayashri.
So I have a question. So we need to test like each bit and pieces of whether it is working or not, or like just it is like an overview, like whether it's work or not. We can change or not. That is the simple thing. Or
yeah. So so either you can just like it's again, think about it how you would anticipate the system to get implemented, right?
Yes.
So the question is not whether you can test every individual field or not, right?
Yeah.
The question is, if you are able to change at least one field, then you fail, irrespective of whether you can change all the fields or not.
If
right?
he can't change, so that is success, right? Like
Right. So the only thing is that it's simplest way, right? Is the entire application is presented to you as a read-only application or not?
Okay.
That's all you need to test it.
Thank you.
Right. So like as Harshal pointed out, it has only one simple scenario that you need to test it. Can I modify anything? And if the answer is no, then good, it passed. If the answer is I can modify at least one thing, then it failed. Now again, this is the application data, not the application status. Because approve and reject is not the application data, they are the application status. Right? So let's talk quickly through it. I know we're like it's pending, but you get the trend, right? So when I'm trying to do it, the application status, right? Herschel, if you can just draw it for the next one, application status, we can just talk through it.
Sure. Are you talking about pending?
Yeah, the approval or reject, the previous condition, right?
Oh, okay.
So all it says that a lender can either only approve or reject application by changing status. Okay, so think about it. This is the application status. Okay, so here you need to focus on application status, right? So think about it. What are the different application statuses going to be? Application could be in approved status, could be in rejected, or it could be in a submitted status, right?
It can be in the pending status also, right?
The pending is same as submitted, right? So essentially, dealer submitted for lender to review, right?
Yes.
Now, if it's approved, should I be able to change anything?
No.
Why not? Tell me the implication of it if I change that. So think about it, right? If it's an approved, what does it mean? The dealer is going to go fix the car and going to get the money from you, right?
Right.
So if I change an approved to rejected, what happens at that point? What if the dealer already fixed the car and I'm saying, no, I'm not giving him money? Should I'm allowed to do that?
No, I think.
So as a lender, I should not be able to change anything if it's already in approved status, right?
Yes.
So if it is approved, I should not be able to do anything. What if it's rejected? That means dealer is already told nobody's going to give you money for this. So dealer won't fix your car, right? And the customer walked out. If a customer walks out, even if you change from a rejected to approval, does it make any business sense? Should I be allowed to do that?
No.
Right? So the scenario I need to test it is if it's in approved status or if it's in rejected status, I should not be able to change anything. Okay. That leaves the third status, which is in pending. So if it is in pending, that means I'm going to review it. And then potentially I can select one of the two paths. If I approve it, I want to make sure that the status now shows as approved. If I rejected it, then status should show me it's a rejected, right? So if you think about it, there are 4 different things that I need to test it. Okay, Roger, I have your hand raised. Tell me what's your question.
Yeah, so, based on the scenario, based on what you're saying, if, the lender approves it, okay, and then turns around and rejects it. So based on the 3 CTs, isn't this inconsistent?
No, you're trying to prove that, right?
You're going to prove it if it's in rejected status that I should not be able to change it. So all I just say is that a lender should be able to only approve or reject application status, right?
Right.
So that means I have to look at it, whatever the application status is, The only thing the lender can do it is change it to either approved or rejected status. If there is anything else, I should not be able to do anything, right? So if something is already in approved status, I should not be able to change it to rejected. Or if something is rejected, I should not be able to change it to that. The only thing is, if it is pending status, that means I have an action to do it. And the only action I can do it is either approve or reject it. So here are the 4 scenarios that I need to test it. Yes, Deepa.
Yeah, the requirement section doesn't say anything about pending, right? Even the requirement is not like, there is no one option at pending. Either can only approve or reject. That's a scenario we have given, right?
So I should go back to the requirements, right? If you can flip it, right? So in this case, right, it's the concept of lender taking action on the credit application, right? Think about the context when lender should be able to take any action. If it's already something is already approved, do I have any action to take?
So who are talking, that you are talking about the lender?
Yeah.
No.
Right? So if I don't have any action to take it, should I be able to do anything with it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the requirement says that like I can only approve or reject credit application.
Yeah.
By changing status, right?
Yeah.
The things that is kind of like you're pointing it out, right?
Yeah.
It is not explicitly said, but it is the flow that they talked about it, right? That anything that I have to do, think about it. What is the context diagram says? Once lender approves it, the message is already sent to the dealer.
Yeah.
Right? At that point, once the message is already sent to the dealer is already taking action based on the approval and rejection.
So here we are anticipating, right? There is a pending thing, like, because it's like, I don't think in the document.
Right. So yeah, right. So here it is, they're talking about based on a business process, they're implicitly saying that, hey, I can do either approve or reject credit application. Once I take action on the credit application, that is no longer available for me to take any action. Right? So definitely, you can definitely talk with the business users and say, hey, what if it's already in the approved or rejected status, and get that additional clarification.
Okay.
Which I feel it is there through the business process. But by all means, if it's not clear to you, you should definitely ask that question.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay. So everybody clear on those 4 test cases? All right.
Okay.
So let's look at the last one, right? Lender can only access the credit application assigned to them. Okay. What does this mean? Can anybody explain me? What does this requirement mean?
He should not see the other lenders' applications.
Precisely. So how are you going to prove this condition? What are the scenarios you need to think about it?
He can, lender can access their application. Or
do you have scenarios written down?
What are the different scenarios you need to think about it in order to test this requirement?
Should be access or no access?
How do I know? Tell me the scenario. How do I know about it?
There has to be a valid lender ID, only then it can come to the particular lender.
Okay, so think about it, right? If I'm a lender and I log into the system and I don't see anything, does that mean I don't have any application.
You get an email notification.
How do I know I
You
can
get an
X?
email,
How do I know something is assigned to me? Let me go by it.
the email notification from the dealer once.
What if my email didn't work? Right? Occasionally you get it like it's in the spam, or sometimes you don't get the email delivered.
Lender must be able to see it in a system.
Right, but how do I know I have something in the system?
So lender's ID is provided in the credit application.
Okay, so let me walk you through a scenario. Okay, I'm a lender in the system, right? The system functionality is, let's say Herschel is a dealer. Okay, Herschel submit a credit application and assigns that to me.
So
Right.
your name should be there.
True, but at that point, how do I know something is assigned to me? And how do I know that what is assigned to me is only what Herschel has assigned to me? What if you are also playing a role of a dealer and you didn't assign a credit application to me, but Herschel did? How do I know that the only thing I'm going to see it is what Herschel assigned to me and not what you have submitted in the system? Right? Because all of you, what you're describing it is you're assuming system is working perfectly, therefore I will see it. Here, you have to prove it that system is working perfectly.
You are the QA, so you need to make sure system is working properly. So you need to think out of the box, I mean, for this type of scenarios. Did anybody write down any scenario or tree for this one?
I wrote test case. I tried to wrote.
Not the test case, scenarios.
Oh no, I only wrote access or not access and no data, but I don't think it's right.
Okay.
I wrote one valid lender ID and invalid lender ID. So only
No,
the
that is not correct either. Anybody
But-
else wrote?
Yeah, I wrote application assigned and application assigned. And then
But how do you gonna know about it?
And then I broke it down to application assigned, authorized to access and not authorized to access.
Go ahead and share, Roger. Let's take a look at it.
While he's sharing it, Rashmi, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I wanted to share as well.
Okay, let Roger share it,
Okay.
and then we can come to you. Go ahead, Roger.
I guess this one.
Yeah, so the question here, Roger,
Mhm.
is how do I know I'm authorized to access versus I'm not authorized to access?
Well, I just don't want to use the word assume, but because it says that lender can only access the credit.
Right, but how I'm going to prove it? Remember, your role as a QA, as Harshal pointed it out, is to demonstrate that system is working as expected. Here, you're assuming system is working as expected.
Right.
Right? Don't assumption, right? Prove it. Remember, like we were in high school, people will do it. It's like hey, when you say it's 3 into 5 is 15, prove it is 15. By not assuming it, right?
Right.
So go ahead and share. Rashmi, go ahead and share what do you have.
Yeah, can you see that?
No, this is, you're focusing on email notification, right? That's not how you're going to prove it. Something is in the system.
Okay.
all you're doing it is you're assuming it, the email notification and the system assignment is working as expected.
Okay.
Okay. So let's go back to the requirements, right? So think of it scenario this way. Okay. So let's look at it, the possible scenarios. Okay. So there are multiple situations, right? First, let's say there is only one credit application present in the system, right? And it's assigned to me. What should be the behavior? Should I be able to see it or not? Right? So one way I can do it is I'm going to have a dealer create an application to me, for me, assigned to me, and I'm going to log in as a lender and see it. Can I see it? Right? So I have one application assigned to me. That's one scenario. And you have to prove it that if it's only one application present in the system and is assigned to me, I can see it. Second scenario is there are more than one application in the system and they all assigned to me. Can I see all of them? Because remember, what is required is that I can access application assigned to me.
Yes.
If it's one or more, I want to be able to see it, all of those scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
So one scenario is one scenario is 1 plus. Third scenario is there is nothing in the system assigned to me, which is a 0. And I want to prove it that if that is the case, I should not be able to see anything. Right? In the fourth scenario, there is more than one application in the system, but none of them is assigned to me. Then I should not be able to see anything. Right? So if I prove that all of those scenarios work as expected, then I can guarantee that, hey, the only thing I'm able to see it is what assigned to me. Right?
Right.
So you have to test through this 4 scenarios and all 4 work as expected. Then only I can say that I can access only the ones that is assigned to me.
What is this fourth one? 1 plus what?
So there is more than one application is present in the system,
Mm-hmm.
but none of them is assigned to me.
Okay.
Then I should not be able to see anything.
Yeah, this is ABC lender, right? So it's a different lender. Can I still see their application, basically?
Okay.
Right? I mean, you can add few more scenarios. There are multiple one application assigned by different dealers to different lenders, and I can see my own. Basically, you can add the 5th scenario as well.
Yeah, Ashil, that's a good point, right? So the 4 scenarios that we talked about, it is just created by one dealer. There's another scenario. If there are multiple dealers which creates application to me for me, I should be able to see all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Correct.
So that's another possibility that I need to validate. So as long as all the 5 are working, then only I can say, hey, that requirement is clearly that I can see only mine, irrespective of who assigns it to me. Are you good?
Yes.
Everybody understood what you need to do and why you need to do this path? Yes, Deepa.
Yeah, that you're saying assigned to me means like I'm going to assign the application for myself?
No. Assigned to me is if I'm logging in an XYZ lender.
So if as a tester, what's my job now? Like,
so as a tester in this scenario, right? All you're saying is if I'm logged in as XYZ lender, what should I see?
So these are the pre-existing conditions, right? Already all these credit applications should be assigned to me or assigned to the ABC, like whatever this is.
It's not about pre-existing condition, right? It's about the scenarios that I need to create it. Whether I already have application in the system that matches that precondition, or I'm going to create explicitly new application that matches that precondition.
So I'm going to create the application, like that's what
I can't, as a lender, can I create application?
No, like as a tester, I'm going to log in as a.
Not as a lender. You can't log in as a lender, even if you're a tester.
I'm logging as a dealer and I'm going to create an application and assign to the particular lender, and then I'm going to test it. That's what it goes, right? That's what.
Then I'm going to log out as that dealer. I'm going to log in as a lender.
Yeah.
And I'm going to see it if I can see it or not.
Okay. Yeah. First, I have to log in as a dealer user and I have to create application for different lenders. And then I have to log in as a lender, and then I have to see whether it assigned to me. Go back one step, right?
Right. Those are the detailed steps for each one of those 5 cases.
Okay.
That you need to write it.
Okay.
Now, if you are creating multiple applications, you probably want to list out all the application steps.
Okay.
You might say repeat the steps for creating a second application, third application, but you want to list out. Don't
all
put
the data.
anything in the precondition, okay?
Okay.
With the data, because that's very important. I mean, in this type of scenarios, which can get complex, I mean, you want to have detailed steps.
Okay. Thank you.
Otherwise, you will struggle with the testing during the execution part.
Okay.
So I have a question here regarding this scenario. So why can't we just log in and maybe send the credit application to the lender and then test that an email notification has been sent? Why go through these steps? Why not just check if following?
Can you guarantee that you will always get the email address sent to you?
But isn't that what we're supposed to test as a tester then?
But that's a different functionality, right? That's a different email.
Email function, yeah.
Okay.
Because you might get email, but you never receive credit application in your plate, in your queue. Basically, you will never see in the system when you log in. But you might get an email.
Okay.
Those are 2 separate functionality. Email, sending out email, which is a different thing, and now it's part of the business process. Yes, for dealer assigning a credit application to lender, yes, they need to send an email. Plus, the lender needs to receive the application in their queue, or basically it needs to be assigned properly to the lender. But that's the part you are testing here.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
Ask you a question.
Yep, go ahead.
Here, the first one, you are saying multiple dealers assign the application to me, to XYZ, right?
Yep, XYZ.
So does that not mean that like I have 1+ credit applications? So I think the first one and the third one are the same. How are they different?
This could be from the same dealer.
Oh, okay.
Right. Yeah. If I have to clarify it from whatever Germain.
Gotcha. Okay.
So as I said, I mean, you can have multiple scenarios here. Thinking that way, it's just the same thing as your bank account, right? You're logging into your bank account in bank system. Basically, you are the only one you can see your account information. Nobody else can see it, right? So the same concept applies here. But as a tester, you are proving that system is working properly by executing these different scenarios and coming up with different test cases.
Yes. So think of this way, right? Let's say somebody sends you electronic payment to your bank account. And you say that I have set it up a text message alert to get it whenever the money gets deposited in my account. Just because you got a text alert, are you going to rely that the money is already added to my account?
No.
What if you don't get text alert? What happens to the money?
Fine. Yeah, which is fine as long as you get the money, right?
Right. That's where you need to think about it. It's two separate functionality. Getting a notification is one functionality, and then actual assignment and ability to access the information is another functionality. Right, you have to test both the functionality.
So it can be test case.
It's going to be two separate test cases because it's two separate requirements.
So can we write all test cases in a one format? What it called? Test
One
table.
one Word document, you mean?
Oh, yes.
Again, go back to the same thing. How do I know if there are multiple test cases written under as a one test case? Some of them pass, some of them fail. Can I give a concrete answer? It passed or failed?
No. I'm asking in test steps. So can we write a valid and valid in?
No, you have to
Goes
have
back to the
one.
same thing.
Yeah.
Can you clearly say test case passed it or not?
No, we can't say.
If you cannot say it, is it repeatable? If not, you need to break it down. You always have to, irrespective of what test case run, if you, at the end of the test case, if you cannot clearly say whether it's passed or failed, you don't have a proper test case.
Okay. So we have to write separate.
You have to write a separate test. All this five, that's why you're doing this exercise, right? You're creating the leaf because you're trying to identify how many test cases you need to write. In this case, you have to write 5 test cases in order to prove that this requirement is working.
So for all leaf, it's a different test case.
Right.
And steps.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
So in this case, why can't we just test if the lender ID is valid? So then you know for sure that if the lender ID is valid and the
just because a lender ID is valid, does that mean that lender can see it?
But ideally speaking, it's supposed to be going through
Again, what do you mean by supposed to? Are you trusting the system that it is implemented the way the design is? Or you are actually, through test cases, validating and verifying the system is working as expected?
Right, that's correct.
Yeah, it's a good, it's a responsibility of the QA to make sure system is delivered properly to the business. And I've seen people getting fired as well, basically on this one. It's a very serious function, making sure the quality is baked in. Now, if I don't test all 5 scenarios and things goes in production and half of the things doesn't work, they're gonna come back to you as a QA, and they will say, why you didn't test it? Why there are so many issues in the production? Somebody has to take a blame. Unfortunately, that's how it works in the corporate world. So.
So I have a question for differently. We precondition, what it called, precondition, different.
It's a different test case, right? Everything is different. These are 5 different test cases. You will have 5 different precondition, post conditions.
So module name and test title.
Don't worry about module name and other things, but title should reflect which scenario you are testing.
Okay.
So it should clearly say that more than one credit application assigned to the same dealer XYZ from a same dealer. Okay, that's how the title should be, so that we can differentiate what the test case is.
Okay.
And that comes with the practice. So, and we will review those things as you go through. Okay. Any other question on this? This is a very common requirement. I mean, things do get complex in the real life, but this is one of the most common thing you will see in the real systems as well. So.
Roger, you had a question?
Oh, no.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. So I think that's one part. Now, the other homework you had, it was writing the 3 test cases. All right. Question for all of you. Did you guys write it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, then you will get a couple of more.
So, Herschel, I don't know if we have time to review them, or should we pause it till Saturday to review it?
Yeah, I think let's review those test cases on Saturday, but let's talk about between now and Saturday. I think maybe if they can write pick a couple of test cases.
Yeah. So what I would like it, everybody, it's not just about a couple of cases, right? Now that you have a better understanding, what I would like it, all of you, is you have 5 requirements, right? We went through the 5 different scenario trees.
Do you wanna pick the requirement? They can write it, Dilip. We can give one for the load calculator and one for this one.
If you're gonna bring it, the 5 requirements. Okay. Here's what I would like it, right? I would like you to do it, one for that requirement, the Herschel is identifying 2.1, right? Lender can access the credit application assigned to them. Pick one of the 5 scenarios that Herschel has drawn it. Okay. So do that, do the loan calculation, and also give me the approval and rejected status, right? So for those 3 requirements, I would like everybody to write at least 1 test cases. So that 3 plus the 3 that you had in homework. So Saturday morning, you should be ready to walk through it.
Can you please repeat the 3 ones you want us to
So
do?
loan calculator 2.1.
Just pick one scenario from there, right? If you want to pick valid scenario, yep, it's fine. We already gave you the calculation and everything else.
Right. Then in section 266, put 1 for 2.1 and 1 for 2.2. Okay. So those 3 plus the 3 that you already written it, right? So we'll review it through Saturday, all those 6.
Can you share the test tree in the mail, because I couldn't, because I was driving, I couldn't able to copy it.
Yes, we'll put it out by tomorrow morning. Yep.
Thank you.
So we just writing test scenarios for this, right?
Test cases.
Test cases.
Detail steps.
The detailed steps. Right?
How you gonna give the instructions step by step to test out what would be your expected result and so forth. Yeah, now, so I would suggest you create in the computer itself the templates that you have, so that we can easily share and review.
Yeah. I have a question about the specific lenders. Should we mention the lenders and dealer names in the data? Like lender one?
Yes. Remember the same rule, Rohini. If you have written the test case, and if I give it to, let's say, Roger, can Roger execute that test case without asking you any question in terms of what should be the ID, what should be the data, what should be the next step or expected result? So write the complete test case with the test data, with the precondition, with the steps and expected results.
So in that case, when we are using all these, I can only use 2 lender names here, right? Lender 1 and lender 2 in the system, because that's what you shared in the document.
No, you can create as a
you can create, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we could use, okay.
Yeah, you can put Rohini as a lender, who cares, right? it's your test data, and as long as you are able to create a Rohini as a lender, then you should be good.
Okay, got it.
Because as a QA, you will have ability to set up the test data and so forth. Okay. Any question on the homework side of things?
So I have a question. Suppose this is a requirement 2.1. What should be test data? I'm not getting what should we write in test data.
So think about it. Remember, we talked about writing first logical step before writing the detailed steps.
That tree.
So we already did the tree. From a
Mm-hmm.
tree, you need to write the logical steps. Remember the Microsoft note that I wrote it down while you guys were telling me the steps, right? Those were the logical steps, right?
Yes.
So if you have to do one of the scenario that we listed out for requirement 2.6.6 and then 2.1, what logical steps you will write it? I would recommend to write those things first and then convert that into the detailed steps. And what data you should do it? Remember we said in the design document, there is a list of everything that I need for credit application. You should list those out.
Okay.
Remember, this is your job. As a quality assurance, you're responsible to write step-by-step instructions of how we're going to test this feature or capability.
Okay.
And we'll review it right on Saturday as well. So hopefully that will give you, but try to finish up as much as you can, more detailed steps, put as much detail as you can, and we'll flush it out on Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah. Think about logically, how would you go about it, right? So I shall pull up the tree for me for a second, the 2.1, right? So in this case, right, how are you going to go try out that there is one application in the system and it's assigned to me? Think logically, right? So I'm going to do what? First, I'm going to log in as a dealer user. I'm going to create a credit application, right? And assign to XYZ lender, right? And I'm going to submit that. I'm going to log out. And then I'm going to log in at XYZ lender. And I'm going to see it. Is that particular credit application, which was created by that particular dealer, is that assigned to me or not? Can I see it or not? Right? That's logical steps. Now you have to convert that logical step into the detailed instructions and what should be expected results at each step.
Okay.
Including what should be the data, right?
Okay.
That's just an example, right? You have to do that thing across for all of the test cases.
Okay.
The three-way that we talked about. Yep. Okay, so one thing I would say is if you don't write it, we will not know how much progress you are making. So give it a shot, okay? So if you write it, then we can review it and we can correct it. That's the goal, I mean, basically, okay?
Okay.
Can we get a recording of this session?
Yes, I'll put it out by tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Can you write this tree little clear?
But I'll let you guys, I think you guys can
just a little clear, something.
Read the handwriting. I think it should be good. So
yeah.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't be able to convert, but you can take a shot at it. But these are different scenarios, right? I mean, it's just the wording wise, basically, hopefully you understand what we discussed.
Yeah. Just for understanding what is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Any other question?
No.
All right. I think then we can wrap up here. Almost at the time. And again, Saturday will be the hands-on part as well. I mean, it will be hands-on going forward, but Saturday, if you are coming, I think it would be good so that you guys will be working in the teams as well. And we will basically pretty much working through.
And bring your laptop, right? As Harshal said it, all the 3 test cases that we talked about today, as well as the 3 that we give in a homework, write it on the Word document in the template that was sent it out on the computer. So it's easier to share.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, then we can wrap up for the day then. And see you
And
guys on Saturday morning. Yep, 8:45. If you guys can make it, that would be ideal, because then earlier you come with your team members and you can start early, so that you get more time in the classroom. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty.
Thanks. Have a good evening.
All right.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.